Oh, perfect. Oh, yeah, perfect.
Oh, we don't. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today. We're just going to give people a minute to filter in from the waiting room, and then we'll kick things off. Great to see everyone filtering in and joining us. Thanks so much for being here today. If you didn't hear, I'm just going to give it a minute for people to join from the waiting room, and then we'll start with housekeeping notes. Fantastic. I think we're good to go ahead and get things started. Well, hello, everyone. Hope you're having a good day so far, and thanks so much for joining our webinar, Friction-Free Credentialing. My name is Sarah. I'm a member of the marketing team here at Bullhorn. Before we begin, I just wanted to cover a few brief housekeeping items. So first of all, today's session will be recorded. You will all be getting a recording of that session directly to your inbox sometime this week. So no need to reach out about that or go searching for it. It'll come right to your email. Next, you guys will all be muted for the duration of the session, but we do have some dedicated time set aside for Q&A at the end. So if you have any questions, please drop them in the Q&A panel at the bottom of the screen. We'd love to cover anything you guys have to ask. Last, we should be wrapping up in about 45 minutes. And we're super excited for the session. Thanks again for joining. I'm going to pass it along to one of our speakers, Sophia, to kick things off.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining. This is the Friction-Free Credentialing webinar, a unified experience for your team and your candidates. I'm Sophia, Senior Product Marketing Manager for Healthcare here at Bullhorn, and I have with me Christopher Lewis, our Principal Solutions Consultant, also here at Bullhorn. So what we're going to cover today is what we're hearing in the market, an overview of our Bullhorn Healthcare Credentialing solution. Chris is going to demo what we have, and then we'll wrap up with Q&A. So we know that the top 5 problems are the clinician life cycle, according to Talent. There's a lot of different problems when it comes to responsiveness sharply declining, recruiter not being proactive. But 2 of the top 5 problems are related to credentialing and onboarding. We also asked healthcare staffing firms what are their top challenges when it comes to credentialing, and they share that it was too manual and too time consuming. The technology out there isn't well suited for healthcare staffing, and credentials are hard to collect from providers. So it's both difficult for providers and healthcare staffing firms. And that's where Bullhorn Healthcare can help. We can help you increase on-time starts at scale in 3 key ways. You're able to drive greater compliance and gain visibility with centralized credentialing and track expirations. You're able to accelerate time to credential by increasing efficiency, and you can streamline and automate credential management. And lastly, you're able to improve provider satisfaction. So you can make it easy for providers to work with you through self-service credentialing on any device, anytime. And we have a solution that will allow you to collect and maintain your credentials all throughout the talent lifecycle in order for you to drive further operational efficiency. So you can do this during the applicant and candidate stage. Onboarding and credentialing is a really big piece of that, but you can also make sure that your providers stay compliant on the job and also ready for redeployment for the next assignment that they have. And we have credentialing capabilities embedded in sales and recruiting, automation, talent experience, and we also have Bullhorn Marketplace partners that touch onboarding and credentialing that works with our different solutions. So the way it works in terms of how we can make compliance easy for you, your team, and your providers is first, you're able to easily set up the right requirements. You can automate having requirements from the client flow down to the job based off of company, state, specialty, and category. Next, you can collect only what you need. We have a way so that when you have a new placement, you know what you already have on file, so there's no duplicate collection with dynamic credential match. Once you know what you need to collect, you're able to automate collection from providers and make credentialing easy for them as well as for you. So they're able, through our talent experience, they're able to upload and update their credentials when interviewing, while during the onboarding process, and while on assignment. And then once that all flows into your ATS and compliance manager, you're able to gain full compliance visibility. And there, what you can see is your different placements and the compliance status for every single placement. And you can even click on it to learn what requirements you have that you've already satisfied and what you need to collect next. If you're collecting your credentials early prior to onboarding, you can also source qualified providers faster and power credential match search, so you can make the perfect match and job, credential provider and job match. And then lastly, you can stay on top of expiring credentials. In Compliance Manager, you can track all your different expirations by placement, but also you can send out automated expiration alerts to providers as they get close to their credentials expiring, and also your internal teams to follow up. And this is something that we have started back in 2018 and have continued to make investments. So back in 2018, we started off with Bullhorn ATS placement and candidate credentials. We then expanded on that so that you can see all the credentials in one place in a single view. And also we started to, at that time, automated alerts for upcoming expirations to providers and also your internal teams. In 2022, we acquired Able, and through Talent Platform, we were able to allow providers to do self-service credentialing. And then last year, we launched Compliance Manager, that all-in-one view, so you can get full visibility of the compliance status of your workforce. And we're continuing to invest in credentialing with automated credential requirements on the job this year, as well as dynamic credential match, and more that's going to be coming in our other products on Bullhorn. So before I hand things off to Chris, I just wanted to share a quote from Amy Reed, VP of Operational Strategy for CHG Healthcare. So RN Network, they were able to speed up credentialing, and she shared, Bullhorn's earliest credentialing capabilities were a tremendous change in allowing our team to see all the documentation that they needed for credentialing in one place. And with the addition of further credentialing, such as automation and collecting documentation, our team is now completing credentialing about 65% faster than they used to. All right, and now I'm going to hand things off to Chris to demo.
All right, thank you, Sophia, and welcome everybody, and thank you for making time today as we look at the credential management demonstration here inside of Bullhorn. We really broke this down into 3 sub-chapters in the way that we're going to walk through our story today, and that's looking at it from first a unified requirements experience. So when we think about whether your account management team and sales teams are going out and collecting jobs from your facilities and from your clients, or perhaps you're leveraging Bullhorn's VMS sync and you have healthcare VMS jobs coming in automatically that are being synced in from the VMS in clients. Being able to come in and be able to capture that information automatically when we think about the requirements that are needed for that job, and the way that Bullhorn automation is going to be able to now dynamically capture that at the job level and providing that all the way through from a requirement to the placement of what credentials will be needed based off things like location, what facility or client that it's working with, the specialty and role of this position. So it really starts taking away some of that guesswork to what will we need to credential this provider, and then being able to really drive in through automation and the talent platform of managing the credentials, and then going into the compliance management elements of having a one-stop place for the compliance specialist to be able to complete the compliance and credentialing onboarding experience for that provider into their role, and then managing those during the assignment. So when we think about any expiring credentials or other requirements that may come about, they're going to be able to manage that all within one place. And then we're going to wrap up with what will this look like from a provider's experience standpoint, leveraging Bullhorn's talent platform, being able to receive automatic credential request notifications, whether that's via email and or text, being able to be driven in through the talent platform to complete the compliance related tasks, whether this may be working with a partner on having their background on drug screening requests or reference checks, credentials that are needed to be completed, everything that's going to be able to get them started within that position. We'll go ahead and from there, we'll jump right into when we think about, well, what will this look like if we are collecting jobs leveraging Bullhorn's VMS sync? Is really going to be the structure today around this position. And when we think about ways that Bullhorn is not only helping from a credential and compliance management, when we think of a new VMS rep coming in and being able to normalize that information from all of our VMS end clients, and then being able to drive internal notification like what we're seeing here of being able to say, hey, we have this new travel RN ER department position with CCH. Please review the job order. We want you to be able to begin sourcing and engaging the top registered nurses for this position. Maybe we want to capture some very brief information, the title, maybe the description, the location that we're going to be working, but most importantly, start leveraging Bullhorn AI to be able to start semantically driving a list of maybe the top 5 or 10 or 25 providers that exist within your database today to give a springboard to your recruitment team of, hey, we have some potential providers that might be a great fit. So now, instead of the team spending the time to go out and source the right candidates, we can now start spending more time with the right candidates. As we can see here, we have Linda Green, who's being flagged as a potential excellent match for this position based off of some matching criteria such as location, skill set, specialties, experience, and so forth. So with that being said, now that we've got a notification, we know that we've got this new role to fill, we want to be able to start kind of moving forward with, well, what requirements will we need for this position? And with that, we can now jump right into Bullhorn and start looking at this position and being able to identify what automation has found based off of our automation enrollment of what credentials will be required based off of, it's in the state of Illinois here at Cook County Health, right in the city of Chicago. Looking at things like, well, with it being an ER position, what are going to be some of the credentialings based off that specialty that we're going to need? And we can see right here at the job level where automation has automatically been able to identify, look, we're going to need the immunization checklist, a PNCB, their BLS and ACLS, their RN license or NICLACS, being able to quickly identify saying these are going to be the things we're going to need based off of the location, specialty, category, etc. So now that we know what credential requirements we're going to be needing, we can then start thinking about, okay, well, what about Linda Green specifically? We saw that she was an excellent match for this job. What do we need to go and collect from Linda? Whether this is the first time we might be placing Linda out on assignment, or perhaps Linda has recently come off of an assignment and we're wanting to go ahead and get her redeployed into her next role. So with the new position here open in Bullhorn, we've matched Linda to it. We can now take that and kind of fast forward this to looking at it from the perspective of, we've now created this assignment for Linda, and we want to be able to look at the credential requirements from the assignment level and seeing how Bullhorn's dynamic credential match has now stepped in place for us. So as we expand out the requirements here at the assignment level, we can quickly see that there's been several credentials that we already had on file for Linda that were quickly matched to the requirements for this assignment. Things such as her RN license that we've already reviewed and we see that it is current. The BLS that's been reviewed and current, but most importantly, the PNCB, which is a newer credential that Linda has provided back to us, but we haven't reviewed it quite yet and validated the information on that credential. So it's showing, hey, we have a potential match, but it's going to need reviewed by a compliance specialist, which we're going to be taking a look at the ways we can do that here in just a brief moment in the compliance manager. We can see that we do have two that need to be requested, the PALS and the immunization checklist. And with Bullhorn's dynamic match and the talent platform's credentialing automation, the moment we matched Linda to this assignment, it identified that we have two outstanding credentials that are not matched, as well as one that's expired, and automatically reached out to Linda via the talent platform and have requested those credentials, which we're going to see the provider experience here in just a little bit. But now we're going to be able to go and take a look at the compliance manager of where the compliance specialist will be able to manage all of this within one place across all of the assignments that are their responsibility. Now, within the compliance manager, it's going to have some very familiar, if you're using Bullhorn today, of the list views, whether you're looking at your jobs or your assignments, candidates, and so forth. Except you're going to notice there's been some updates that have been done. The way in which we're able to save or mark favorite searches has a different look and an upgraded feel. We have the ability still to come in and drive some advanced searching. So when we start thinking about being able to say, I want to create a list as a compliance specialist to show all of the assignments in which I am responsible for, I will be able to come in and build out that criteria and then be able to have the list results come back so that I know what I'm needing to focus specifically in on. Versus maybe as a compliance supervisor, you're wanting to see all of the assignments and where everyone's at within the process. Just as you see across the top, we can easily sort and filter each column that's available. So most importantly, when I think about, well, what is the status of the assignment itself? Are we approved? And now the only thing we're holding on is the compliance of this? Or are there still some wrap-ups that the recruitment team is doing, getting this assignment to an approved status? As we look at Linda Green's here, I know they're still hammering out some details with inside the rate card and some of the bill obligations to make sure that we're hitting compliance when it comes from an invoicing standpoint downstream. So we can get a quick jump on while they're working through that to identify, look, we have two credentials that we know are completed. We've got that one in progress. We do have an expired credential that we've notified Linda about, and we're providing an opportunity for her to go in and update that credential automatically within the talent platform for us. But for us, we're going to be able to come in and really have this as being the primary location for the onboarding and compliance specialist to really be able to come in, have a quick view of where all of our assigned requirements are at, as well as being able to take quick action to help drive compliance across all of the assignments, really to help out in reducing things like failed or delayed starts due to missing credential or no compliance. Thinking of things like having integrated partners such as KarmaCheck or Sterling, Ref Assured that are also pushing data into Bullhorn when we think about having completion and result of assessments and background screenings being a part of our onboarding and compliance process. So right from within this list, I can easily come in, take some quick actions. Perhaps I want to add a brief note regarding a conversation that I just had with Linda regarding the credentials that we still need to collect. I could easily come in and add that. If we need to make a quick change to the start date of the assignment or the document deadlines, once again, we have some quick action. When I click on the edit pencil now, we get a slide out of, well, what are the credential requirements for this assignment? And I can see all of the statuses, just like we were able to see at the individual assignment level as well, of what credentials have been completed, what still requires review, and what is still outstanding. If I want to do a quick expansion of this needs reviewed, not only can I see the specific details around the assignment requirement, but because this is matched against the provider, I can also now quickly jump in, view the credential itself here from the provider. I can expand out and look at the attachment that's been provided, update any required information. So if we have an expiration of the credential, I can come in, quickly update when that's going to be expiring, any other required information, license type, etc. And then as I save this, it's going to update from being needs reviewed into a current complete status. So now as I do that, it's going to be able to move that from being an in progress credential requirement into now being completed. So as we're able to take quick action on not only seeing what the requirement is here, but then also being able to see right there within the candidate view as well of what the candidate's credentials are. We can make those quick updates. We can move them from reviewed. Perhaps they have a credential that's been submitted that we're needing to send back. Maybe in Linda's haste, as they provided their BLS, maybe they sent us a copy of the back. We need a copy of the front. You'll notice that I can easily come in right in here and I can add in a rejection reasoning to this credential and then unmatch the status. And then the talent platform's credential automation will automatically take this information, go and prompt Linda as a new credential request, letting her know we need to capture the front of your BLS and outlining the rejection reason right within her task list inside of the talent platform. So now that we've been able to make some quick updates to that PNCB, marking that as current, we can have the talent platform and Bullhorn driving automation, whether it's through email and or text, around things such as upcoming expiring credentials. So perhaps as the ACLS was getting closer and closer to the expiration, being able to drive a notification letting Linda know, hey, within 90 days, this is going to expire. 60 days, 30 days, 14 days, 7, tomorrow, or at this point, Linda, it is urgent for us to be able to get you compliant that we need to collect a current ACLS as the one we currently have for you has already expired, as well as notifying Linda about the 2 outstanding credentials that we still need to collect. And that's really where the Bullhorn Talent Platform is able to automatically identify those missing or expired credentials, go and ask that, and then prompt the provider through an email or text. And that's really where we're going to go and take a brief look at now is what is this going to look like now from the provider's outlook? So when we think about being able to access this information right from the provider's phone. And so we think about this from Linda's perspective. I've received some text letting me know, hey, so you've been placed out on a new assignment. The assignment's been updated and we do have some tasks for you to be able to complete. So I can easily then just simply click into one of those redirects, and then it's going to take me right to my talent experience. So from the home screen here as Linda, we can see that we have a few tasks that need to be completed. We can see the immunization checklist and the PALS credential being requested. We also have a assured reference check that's been asked, as well as a skills checklist for us to complete. So when we think about not only being able to capture credentialing and compliance, but we think about the entire compliance process and onboarding experience. This could be inclusive of things such as your federal and state government forms like your I-9, your W-4s, if you're doing from a 1099 perspective, your W-9s and so forth, to be able to collect all of this within one place for your providers. Now, when it comes for Linda to be able to complete this, I can easily click into those tasks. I can update the information and say, well, when will the PLS expire? I can update my expiration date. You'll notice as I'm using a mobile device that has a camera with it, that I can easily say, let's go ahead and just use my phone's camera to be able to snap a photo of the supporting document or documentation of my credential, or I can use the choose files option that exists. And maybe I have this saved as a credential on within my phone itself. I can easily come in, access the files on my phones, grab a copy of my credential, and then save and submit this credential right into Bullhorn. Now, what Bullhorn is going to do is, as I saved and submitted that credential, not only is it going to bring this over as the associated credential file type, but then it's also going to create that credential within inside of Linda's credential tab, and then match that dynamically to the requirements for that assignment as a needs reviewed credential, just as we had seen for the other, where we can go in with that when we looked at the PNCB to be able to quickly update and validate the credential information that's been provided. And then, of course, it's going to automatically drive us into our next task, whether that is completing our reference check, our skills checklist, or our next credential. So not only do we have the new requests here, but Linda can also jump right into her profile, make any updates to her basic information, preferences, etc., but also has the ability to come in, see the completed credentials that Linda's already submitted historically, and then be able to take action to say, hey, so I see here that my ACLS has expired. Let me go ahead and update that information and be able to provide the new copy of my ACLS with the updated expiration and drive that information right into Bullhorn as well to update my expiring or already expired credentials through that self-service. So all of this being able to provide a frictionless provider experience, it's really helped guide Linda through the necessary credentialing requirements. That's going to help lead to less failed and delayed starts and really increase Linda and your provider's overall experience with your agencies. With that, I'd love to be able to come in and open this up for questions. Sophia, if you've anything that you would like to add before we kind of start looking at it from a Q&A perspective.
Yeah, do you mind letting me share my screen?
Absolutely.
Thank you. So I did want to share one last testimonial quote before we go into Q&A. So Catherine Pearson, EVP and General Manager at Ingenious Health, she shared, HCS collects 10,000 credentials every month without a person assigning them. It's happening automatically. We obviously have a person reviewing them. That sort of scale and ease has helped that administrative burden and difficult part of staffing. Our NPS score since switching to Bullhorn's credentialing has increased for that team to low 90s. So they've been able to see improvements in terms of speeding up that credentialing and making it easy for their team and also improving the provider experience. So I do have some questions. Maybe I should have created a Q&A slide. So I have one question, which is, how do I have Compliance Manager turned on? So for folks who are interested in Compliance Manager, just reach out to your account manager, let your sales rep know if you're new to Bullhorn, and they can get that turned on and enabled for you. Chris, one question for you. Does Talent Platform have the mobile ability to upload all credentials or just the I-9?
So what was that again, Sophia? To be able to upload all credentials or just the I-9?
Yeah, if Talent Platform, if you're able to upload all credentials or just I-9.
No, so you would be able to leverage the Talent Platform to be able to capture any credential like we had just seen, whether it's your vaccination or immunization records, your PLS, your board licenses, your W-4. You could go into your federal and state tax form like your W-4, your I-9, be able to capture things and do a remote verification. Even and if you're using E-Verify, you could automatically kick off E-Verify when Section 2 has been completed. Being able to do that remotely and be able to capture those electronically. So when we think about whether it's your passport or passport card, driver's license, birth certificate, social security card, when we think about the required documentation for I-9 verification, we have customers that are able to leverage the talent platform to do all of that digitally and still meet guidelines.
So there's a couple of questions around the automated credential requirements. So one was, do you have to manually enter the credentialing requirements from the facility for to then request documents? Oh, that's actually, sorry, that's not the right one. There was one up here around where do you set up the location and specialty specific requirements to ensure they flow down to the job?
Yeah, so it's a great question. So that's all managed inside of Bullhorn Automation. So within Bullhorn Automation, you would be able to create an automation engagement to be able to define by location what credentials would be necessary or facility, role, specialty category. And you're able to define that based off of the job record. And then automation, when a job that meets the criteria that you've set and the credentials that are to be associated with that, when a new job is created in Bullhorn, automation will identify that and then automatically update the job record with the requirements for that job. And then with Bullhorn credential management, those will automatically flow from the job to any assignment created off of the job with those requirements on it.
Awesome. And then I have a related question, which is, do you have to manually enter the credentialing requirements from the facility? Oh, I just lost you. For it to then request documents from the provider.
You do not have to manually enter the requirements from the facility. Once again, you could leverage automation to be able to include those at the job level for you automatically. And then as those move into the assignment, the dynamic match will be able to identify what credentials, what requirements and credentials are already being met by the provider on that assignment. And then any of the delta that is missing, Talent Platform's credential automation would then be able to go out and automatically request those missing credentials from the provider.
One person asked, can the compliance manager be used without a placement? And I'll say that in order to use compliance manager, it has to be on the placement, but there are certainly a ton of other credentialing capabilities in the ATS that you can use without it being on the placement. So I wanted to share that. And Chris, if you have anything to add on that one, you're certainly welcome to.
Yeah, I mean, I know that's a question we hear quite frequently, and I know that's been something that's been shared with our product development team. And in future iterations of being able to potentially leverage compliance management, more so from like a candidate credential requirement perspective without a placement being in place. But as it is today, an assignment is required.
Okay, when adding a credential, this is from someone in the audience, when an expiration date is required, what do you suggest credentialing specialists input as the expiration date when we don't yet have that credential? We use the assignment start date, but wonder if that was the intention.
So if I'm gonna restate that back. So when there's a requirement, we've received a credential regarding that requirement, and there's an expiration date, but we're not sure when the expiration date is, what should we do?
Yeah.
I mean, that would really be determined upon your process. I would definitely put it, if you don't have that information yet, then I would definitely put it either the start date or prior to the start date, so that you're not moving someone into an assignment without having the credential information in place, because you're going to want to stay compliant on making sure everything's accurate and up to date. One of the things with inside the talent platform that may help in that area is when you create your forms and your credential requests in the talent platform itself, you can set how many days from the moment you've requested this from the provider would this request expire. So you could say, hey, when we asked Linda for her PALS, Linda would have 5 days to complete this before that request falls off, and then we drive internal notification letting them know, hey, this request has expired. You're gonna have to go ask Linda for it again. So you do have some stop gaps in the onboarding and credentialing process when we think about how long will we allow a request to sit until we just expire that request as well.
Okay, let's do maybe 2 more questions and then call it good. So one is from Ashley. Will a sender or user be notified every time an item is uploaded, or only when all items in an onboarding request are uploaded?
So you as administrators within your talent platform notification settings are able to determine what individual or individuals or teams would receive notifications upon completion of certain requirements. So you may have it where there's going to be a different individual or a different team that's notified when things like federal and state tax forms are completed, and you want a notification to go to them when those have been done, versus when a credential has been completed, that notification is going to go to the compliance team. So you have the flexibility to really define how you want the internal notifications to be driven.
Okay, awesome. I have one question from Amber that's also related to notifications. So how does notifications work for text or email to providers when they have, say, 2 or more credentials expiring? Will it send out a separate email or text for each one?
So Bullhorn Automation is going to be able to drive that off of when you have within a grouping. So let's say one credential is expiring within 90 days and one is expiring within 30. Depending upon how you have your automation set up, typically then they're going to receive one notification for the credential or credentials that are expiring within that 90-day block, with a different notification for the credentials expiring within the 30-day block, because it allows you to have that flexibility then to really tailor the message based on the severity and the criticality of the expiring date range of the credential itself.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Chris, and everyone here for joining us today. I know that there were a ton of questions. So we'll make sure to go through them, answer them, get them to your account managers. And I hope that everyone has a great rest of your day. Thanks so much.
Thank you, everybody.